Kathy. Welcome to the Colorful Homeschooler Podcast, where we parlay on productivity, personality, passions, education, and theory. I'm a lover of Jesus, a wife of 20 years, and a homeschool mama of 4 special needs boys who keep me constantly active. I'm so glad you're here to join me. Pull up a chair, there's space for you at this table. Hello, friends. So, our last day of winter was Wednesday, March 19th. So we are fully and completely in the spring season. I thought that it might be helpful for me to do another journal reflection episode. So today I'm going to ask you some prompts to look back over the season of winter and prepare your heart and your mind for the spring. Spring means renewal and birth and new life. So why not enter into this period with fresh outlooks by cleansing yourself through a really good journaling session? All right, so let's attend to your senses. Let's put on some soothing music. Let's burn some incense or maybe a sweet candle, something that's going to relax your mind and help you to be present in the current time. Prepare for your children to be taken care of for an hour or so that you can really spend this time dialing in what you need to think about, what you need to reflect on and work through. Brew yourself something warm and soothing, or cold and soothing if that's your thing. I'm a warm drinker. I love tea. So brew yourself something delicious and make sure that you've surrounded yourself with soft colors, with things that make you feel relaxed when you look at them. In other words, don't have your to-do list in front of you at the same time as you're journaling. Really set this time aside so that you can work on this project. All right, some pretty colored pens, perhaps? Maybe a few pieces of art that you might want to intersperse throughout your journaling notes and your journal. So let's begin. I'll give you the prompts and then you can pause me and journal through what you have to say about those prompts. So why do we do reflections? Examining your last season will show you how you've evolved on the micro level, right? It's not a huge year like we did our 1-year journaling reflection back on your past year. And this is more of a micro level. This helps you to see how have you evolved in these past 3 months during this season. Did you slide into any unhealthy habits or thought patterns? What trends have you created in your own life? What do you want to let go of? And what do you want to carry forward? For example, when you prune your fruit trees, now I just had to do this, so it's fresh in my mind. How do you prune fruit trees? Well, you stand back and examine them first. You kind of check out, well, are they keeping their shape? Are they doing what you want them to do? Is it coming out over the walkway? Is it getting into the light patterns of this part of your garden? So you stand back and you examine. You're also going to check out, are there any dead areas? This is one of the number one things that you want to do when you're pruning is cut out those dead or rotten areas. Get rid of them. And you can go deep and hard in those to get rid of that dead, rotting wood, because all that's going to do is continue to spread throughout the rest of your fruit tree. It's going to take over other branches that are not dead right now. If it's disease, it could get all the way into the core, to the heartwood of that tree, and then there's no saving it. So you need to prune that back immediately. That's first. Also, what about those areas that aren't producing that much fruit? Well, those limbs are still taking energy from the rest of the tree. So if you get rid of those limbs that aren't producing much fruit, then all of that energy is going to go to the areas that fruit is actually coming from, and you'll have more to eat. That's the theory, and I've seen it come to fruition. See what I did there? And then finally, the shape. You want it to have a certain shape. There are different names for the shapes of fruit trees, and there are different fruit trees that go underneath each of those shapes. So you want to know what shape it's supposed to have, and you want to be able to cut it and shape it into that specific shape. So let's go over this from your journaling perspective. Standing back and examining. This is the reflection period. This is when we're opening our minds without judgment to what we have to learn from this time in our lives. In this case, the past season. You're going to cut away the dead areas. What thought patterns are leading to deaths in your life? There's a point in the 1990-something movie Dracula with Winona Ryder and Keanu Reeves where she says, "Take me away from all this death." And I think that at certain points in my life where I feel like too much of the things that I am doing are not leading to life. Perhaps things I'm saying to myself, or maybe things that I'm taking part in that just aren't doing in my life what I thought they would do. So they're leading to deaths of little parts of myself, or deaths of dreams, or deaths of the way I see myself. You got to cut it out, right? Recognize, stand back, examine, see the things that are bringing death into your life, cut it out. And I'm going to ask some prompts to get you to this point. Next, what about the areas that aren't producing much fruit? Okay, so that's another thing. That's a step down from things that are producing death in your life. But if you've engaged in something that isn't producing fruit in your life, it's not coming to fruition the way that you wanted it to. And now, if it's too short a time period, don't go hard on yourself. This has more to do with something that you're engaged in that should be showing fruit by now, and it's not. Does it need to be pruned? Do you need to guide that branch in a different direction to catch more sunlight? Do you need to plug back into the source and find out, is this really something that the Lord wants you to do? These are good questions, right? So those would be for the areas not producing much fruit. And finally, pruning for shape. Well, that requires that you know the shape that whatever you're looking at is supposed to be in. So that's where those goals come in that we talked about in our other episode. That's where your planning comes in. That's where your Bible studies come in, right? Depends what we're talking about, but you want to know the shape it's supposed to take. And then, so you want to have clear vision, clarity of vision and purpose. And you can usually only get that from closeness and relationship with the Lord. So you have to know the shape through clarity and vision, and then you need to shape it. So do you need to turn the way you're doing something just a little bit so it can catch more light? Do you need to open your mind to a different possibility to get to that same end? These are all reasons why we reflect. These are reasons why we hold these seasonal reflections. Okay, so let's start some of these prompts. What made you happy over this past season? What made you happy? What a good question. Let's not start with that deep pruning, right? If we're looking at the tree of our lives, we can see and say, I love that side of my tree. I don't want to prune anything from that side, right? What made you happy over this past season, over the winter? What challenges did you overcome? And how did you manage difficult circumstances? Did you learn a new coping strategy that's really been working for you? Were you able to pursue a goal of perhaps yelling less at your children or dealing with discipline in a different way? And you've done really well. Let's celebrate that. Okay, now this could be a good question, like it could shed light on some good things or some difficult things. Are there any repeating themes in your life? For example, do you see that after you spend time in self-care, say on a Saturday, that Sunday you're much more able to pay attention in service? Or you have a much better day on Monday after you spend extra time in your quiet time on Sunday evening? So those would be good sides of it. But how about you notice a theme of overwork and how you've been feeling after that, or you're overstressed and it's causing your fitness to suffer or your health? Okay, these are themes. And again, we are not judging right now. We are reflecting, we are writing it down, and later on we're going to try and implement some changes. Okay, back to what did you accomplish this season? What developments were made in your personal, professional, in your relationships, in your homeschooling? Any difficult circumstances that you've been able to overcome or manage in new ways? What did you accomplish? How about what emotions did you experience this past winter? Did it feel dull or did it feel smooth? How about some textures? Think of a texture or a color that you can assign to whatever it is you're reflecting on. So is there a color or a texture? Is it rough, smooth, wavy, curly, straight, flat? Keep going. Are any of these a good describing word, a good adjective for this last season for you? And what does that mean to you? Were you healing or grieving from anything this winter? Are you still healing or grieving from that? Can you remember specifically moments of joy? And can you relive those in some way as you're reflecting? How about, do you have any regrets from this past season? You need to choose what to release and what to hold on to. Regrets don't serve you, my friends. Let them go. But you can learn from them, perhaps, because again, we're not judging right now, but you can look at that regret and say, what can I learn from that so that going forward, I don't have to have that regret again if I do a looking back reflective time in the summer, on the spring, and you won't have to feel that regret again. So do you have any regrets, and what can you learn from them? And then let them go. Can you gain clarity and intention by learning from any past mistakes? Can you see what worked for you and what didn't? And then allow yourself some time to learn from that. So what worked for you with the mistakes, what didn't, and allow yourself some time to learn from that. Now, as far as learning from those mistakes and those regrets, is there anyone that you need to apologize to? How do you let go of that? Yes? Think about Matthew 5:24. It starts in 23 and it says, "So if you are offering your gift at the altar and there remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar. First, go and be reconciled to your brother and then come and offer your gift." What better way to go into any season than making sure there is no forgiveness necessary on your tab? Right? Go and ask forgiveness so you can learn and move past those regrets and those mistakes in the way that you can control. Now, let's talk about mental clutter. We're going to want to recognize mental clutter. So some of these things could be those unresolved conflicts that we just talked about. How about unfulfilled obligations of your own or expectations that you had on others that have been unfulfilled? Any mistakes, any cyclical negative self-talk where it's looping again and again and has now become part of your tree, prune it off. Do this through this reflection, through this journaling, and through judgment-free cutting back. Yes? This is not about judging you for any of these mistakes because we all make them, but it's about recognizing them and pruning them off, so that we can have a better next season, a better spring than the winter. Some of the ways that you can go through these questions in your journal, it's going to free up that mental space by getting rid of this mental clutter. That is similar to, think about spring cleaning, right? I'm going to have a couple of podcasts coming up on spring planning next week and then the week after, how to stay healthy through the spring. And I want you to recognize that as we look at spring cleaning, we are decluttering our physical spaces. So why not also declutter our mental spaces, our emotional spaces? Hey, ladies, maybe we didn't accomplish everything we wanted to in the winter. I didn't. Maybe you didn't either. Maybe that's weighing on you. Write it down, don't judge, stop thinking about it, and then figure out ways to move forward that will enable you to move further, push the needle further. Or maybe you just need a rest and there won't be any pushing the needle further, and that needs to be okay for a season. I'm just throwing things out there. I hope this is resonating with you. Maybe you could set up a new journaling practice for this season where you're truly focusing in on what you need to say. Now, here are some different kinds of journaling, and then let's see if you want to pick a new one up for this season. I touched on a few ways that we can journal and keep track of different things in our lives in my episode about all the paper we cannot store, right? Where I talked about the different notebooks I keep and then some that other people keep. Here are some journaling types, though. The first one is a free writing or a stream of consciousness journal. Now, most of you probably know what this means, but it basically means that you just start journaling. You don't think about grammar, you don't think about sentence structure, you are just pouring everything out onto the page, no judgment. You might go back and read it, you might not, but this is definitely a way of easing that mental clutter because you're getting everything out. You're kind of word vomiting onto the page, and then most of the time you're just closing that book after you finish. Set a timer, and then for 15 minutes, you're just writing anything that comes to your mind without wondering where your periods are going to go or because you use the same adjective 4 times. No, it's none of that. You are just spewing everything out of your beautiful brain onto that paper. There's no censorship and there's no rules. Okay, second type of journaling is prompt journaling. And this is similar to what we're doing right now. I'm giving you prompts, and then you're pausing me, and you're journaling about what came to your mind when I gave you that prompt. And there are so many different websites. There's my podcast about it. There's different ways that you can get prompts for journaling. There's whole books written about journaling prompts. So this is definitely a way that is well supported in the mental health community. I enjoy being a part of it for you, and I hope it's helpful. Third type of journaling is a gratitude journal. Now, this gained a lot of popularity during COVID, but why not keep it going? And every day, maybe you need to start small, and maybe every day, at the end of the day, you write down one thing you are grateful for. Then maybe you go to twice a day at lunch, and when you go to bed, you write down one thing that you were grateful for. And then next you go to first thing in the morning, middle of the day, and at night, one thing you were grateful for. Next, you bring it up to 2 things each of those times. This is a way to really change your outlook. It forces you to start looking for things that you're grateful for instead of seeing all the many, many things in all of our lives that are just causing pain or discomfort or stress or frustration. This adds so much to your daily practice. So that's gratitude journaling. Now, another type of journaling is called emotional release journaling. And this is very purposeful. It allows you to let go of so-called negative or heavy emotions by helping you to take steps to gain perspective. You write down what is bothering you in detail. Again, no censoring, because on paper, it starts to lose power. So you write down the things that are really weighing on you. Beyond the mental clutter space, these are things that are just causing you distress. And you write down all the emotions. You can even pull out a thesaurus if that's helpful, and all the emotion words that match sadness or pain or anger or hurt. And you just write them all down, and you write the entire situation that happened. And then maybe you write a letter to the person who hurt you. Maybe you write down what you would say to them while the emotion is still fresh. And then maybe you do something symbolic and you wad it up and you burn it. Or you say thank you that you got to release it, and you move on and you leave it in its place in the journal. And you don't have to think about it anymore. Emotional release journaling. Next, reflection journaling, which, again, this is kind of the same type of thing as that. So we have prompt journaling and reflection journaling within this, and it may lead to emotional release journaling or stream of consciousness journaling. So all of these have different reasons that they're helpful. What do you need right now? Reflection journaling, you're going to look back at a recent event and you're going to analyze it. You're going to identify emotional patterns, maybe some triggers that happen to you so that they don't happen again, or so you can control it better the next time. Or so that you just learn that about yourself and you can be more aware in the future. There's also art journaling, collage journaling, or visual journaling, where I do this as well. And I told you in the beginning, gather some art pieces that you may want to intersperse throughout. That would be similar to collage journaling. There's also art journaling where you are actually drawing out your different emotions, the different situations. Maybe you're a cartoonist and you're putting them in little cartoon boxes, and that's how you're processing through what happened. It's similar to when we watch our children have their Barbies or their G.I. Joe action figures or their Superman action figures, whatever, and we watch them from afar and they're working out what just happened to them or what they just saw, say, mommy and daddy talking about. They're working them out through their toys. It's similar to that. So if you're drawing it or processing through it in a non-conventional way, that's okay. That's important. And that is journaling as well. And there's also bullet journaling, which can basically encompass every single kind of these, as well as planning and book lists and music lists and fitness regime. A bullet journal or a bujo is basically a catch-all for whatever you want your bullet journal to contain. So those are some different forms of journaling that might be helpful in this time for you and might start a brand new practice. Well, that's what I wanted to do for you today. I wanted to give you some journaling prompts and walk you through a end of season journaling session. Hopefully this was helpful. As I said before, the next 2 weeks are taken up with spring things. So next week will be a spring planning episode, and I will be releasing my spring planner, my digital spring planner. And the following week will be some different ways of being healthy, as well as some reviews of some new health coffees and different tinctures that I use and make myself. So hopefully you're looking forward to those. Please leave me 5 stars and share me with a friend if you think someone would benefit from any of my episodes. I would love to have some new followers, of course. And if you have a minute, please leave me a written review on whatever podcast platform you listen to me on. It makes a huge difference in the algorithm, and then more people can find me, and I can still podcast and bring you great content. Please write me if there's anything you want to hear from me, and connect with me on Instagram to see some of the fun videos I've been making lately about new hiking areas, as well as some nature study ideas and some new products that I've been reviewing off of Amazon. So thank you so much for listening. You all mean so much to me. And remember, I believe